Okay, well, welcome to the People Group OKR session. As always, in the agenda, the video is there and links to our OKRs. And Stella, I think you're first for your questions, if you could verbalize, please.
I think I am first, second, and third, and you already answered a lot of these, so thank you. On the live learning KR, is there an easy way to quantify desired impact? I think that's actually kind of the thread of a lot of my questions, just pushing a little more to see, can we put numbers and define what success looks like instead of have it just be completion?
I think that's fair. Thank you for calling that out. And I know, Josh, you've put in a couple of suggestions there in terms of if you want to verbalize those.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question, Stella. So a couple, ways to assess besides just, number of folks in the session. We could send out a course satisfaction survey to see what our overall results are. I think a course completion rate of the number of managers that take it against the number of managers in the actual organization. And also just from a qualitative perspective, measuring kind of manager success stories of using that actual assessment in their day-to-day job.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of those are, for me, an improvement on just putting it out there, making sure that it's having impact feels important.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks for that.
And I think my next question, no one has anything to add, is just along the same lines of developing training materials for the Total Rewards program. You answered my question, but that one might just be availability, but pushing there to make sure that people are seeing it, looking at it, engaging in it, fitting in front would be good.
Totally agree. And the other thing that I think is important too is seeing, not only those that pass the knowledge assessments, but those that don't, and what we can do to iterate on the trainings and the materials, depending on the completion rate and percentage of how well people are doing on those assessments.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Okay. And then on the communication briefing packets, again, should we just survey and quantify a bit more?
Yes, and I know Rachel put some thoughts in here in relation to that. This is the joint KR between comms and the people group. Okay, so Rachel, I don't know if she's on the call as yet, is speaking about okay, so she's talking about a video potentially. Okay. All right, so let me sync with Rachel on that and we'll update the KR with more quantitative measure there.
Thank you. And I think this is my last one, then Sid can start asking questions. But on the next one, 25% of screen candidates are from an underrepresented group. And this is one where I think we had some back and forth on Slack, Dave, and we said we might discuss it more. So I don't know if you've already connected with Sid, but I think there is a question where that feels relatively small. I know there's limitations around our exactness in data, but is there something we can do to estimate a bit more and set a more aggressive target?
Thanks for the question, Stella. I have iterated with my team on this and with legal, with data, and trying to bring the orgs together. I think what we were hoping to have was a Q1 baseline that we could build on in order to strengthen top of the funnel. But really looking back at Q1 or even any prior quarter, there really isn't a reliable top of funnel diversity metric that we felt we could say from this point to that point, we can estimate and quantify. So we even discussed making the KR establishing a reliable metric in Q2 for top of funnel diversity. We know that's not the spirit upon which results and OKRs are built. You're needing to have a metric that's beyond that. So we even in describing the 25% to my team, it felt like to get to 25% self-report at the screening stage, we would need to have a much higher representation of diverse candidates entering the funnel above the screening stage. We feel like we can achieve that to get to the 25 and maybe even stretch to get the 25 up to 50 if we were pushed to have a quantifiable measure of diversity at the top of the funnel. So I wanted to put that out there as a potential way to cover this and then just get the team's input as to whether we wanted to, in the spirit of bold, audacious stretch goals, I think the 50 would represent our biggest stretch for diversity at top of funnel as measured by self-report at the screening cage by our candidates.
So just to be clear, for Q2, the goal is to have a more diverse funnel. Just measuring it is not acceptable as a key result. I don't, if like, it's like, well, self-reporting is the problem. Then let's make sure that's not the problem. I think we can do a decent job. We have people self-report. Not everybody wants to self-report. That is totally fine. But let's not stop ourselves there. We are intelligent human beings. We can make an assessment whether we think, based on the reporting, based on the name, based on maybe a picture you found, whether it's a diverse candidate. We are making those calls when we reach out. We can make them for this. So let's start assessing ourselves. So you have the self-reporting, you have the GitLab reporting. And the GitLab reporting, we can should also be a data source. And let's assess ourselves there, not based on the self-reporting, but on the GitLab reporting, because we don't want the lack of self-reporting be a stumbling block to this. And then I think 50% is not nearly as ambitious as we need. I'm thinking more 80%. You've known, that in some of the searches we do together, we accept any referral, we accept all inbound. However, when we reach out, we make sure it's to a diverse candidate. I expect the recruiting team to do the same for a lot of the searches we're doing.
I think the recruiting team is doing that, Sid, for purposes of top of funnel entry of candidates and attempting to source. And we've aligned with our legal team around the use of some of the assumptive models that we make through search strings and otherwise about who are we going to reach out to. I think where we start to get a little uncomfortable with a public OKR and reporting on a very public OKR is making assumptions in our pipeline about who is or isn't going to be representative of an underrepresented group. And that's where I really would want to bottom out with Robin and Emily prior to making assumptions about people that are in the funnel and having that be contributing to an OKR that we're reporting on publicly.
Yeah, look, it doesn't matter whether it's public or not. We should do the right thing, whether it's public or private. So public doesn't matter. We should be comfortable with what we're doing, period. Then if you're going to reach out to, suppose you reach out to 100% diverse candidates, there's two things that make that metric kind of go down for top of funnel. A person you reached out to, you thought was diverse, isn't diverse. And you reached out to them, so now they're in your funnel and you cannot discriminate. So that will bring it down. Plus you have a side stream of referrals, for example, that if they get referred, we're not in control and we won't discriminate. So I estimate both those factors at 10%, setting that 80% goal. It can be something else. We can also set the goal differently because now we're getting, how far away are we from the start of the quarter? We're 1 day away and we have a measurement problem. So we can make it simpler. 100% of the outreach the team will do will be to candidates we suspect are diverse. Then it's in your control. Then it's not top of funnel. Then you don't run the risk of our people inadvertently discriminating as soon as people respond and are in the pipeline.
I personally would be more comfortable with that than making the assumptions about people that are in the pipeline and their representation of underrepresented groups.
Great. That's a simple change to make.
Robin, you on board with that?
Yeah, so I'm not comfortable with the assumptive model. I am comfortable with what Dave suggested. I do think there's other ways to get to the end result that we're looking for, and some of them could be aligning ourselves with certain types of professional groups that speak to certain types of diverse candidates and things along those lines to ensure that we're getting the right type of diverse pool, but doing it in a way that we're not making assumptions about it for folks that have identified with those groups.
Yes, I'm not against that. We've been trying to do that for a long time. It's not really moved the needle. So I think considering the capacity we have now in recruiting, I think we can afford to do something more inefficient.
Okay, so we'll shift.
Inefficient in the sense that it costs a lot of time, efficient in the sense that it will gain a lot of results. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Appreciate the push. Any other input from others? Otherwise, we'll move on with the focus being 100% of the outreach that we make in Q2 will be to people that we believe will be contributing to diversity at GitLab based on underrepresented groups from a gender perspective, ethnic, race, any other backgrounds that we believe will contribute to our definition of diversity.
Awesome. And good point from Robin. Like, hey, if we can amp it up a little bit on collaborating with groups that we know have more diverse people, that'd be great.
Okay, you have the next one, Sid.
Thanks for that. I noticed, if I'm at 5, which I think I am, that all the people, OKRs were under great team. Now the ordering of the OKRs is not per division. So you'll see that other divisions feel responsible for a great team. It's not like, oh, great team, oh, that's people. Good, I don't have to do anything there. But I think there needs to be a bit of reciprocity, where the people function is not just, oh, well, my stuff is under great team, I don't need to contribute to the other goals of the company. So I think that it's a very narrow view of the people function if you think that you can stay only under those things. If you want to be strategic, you'll have to contribute to the other important goals of the company. And I don't have concrete suggestions, but that has to come from, for example, the people business partners. But I know that we're missing certain skills in engineering. We don't have the distributed systems expertise that I think we need to work. That is something that can contribute to a great product. We know that in sales, we have to make our land motion more efficient. That's a super important thing for the entire company. How can the people function contribute to that? Maybe do an inventory of what kind of roles are typical there at other companies and how that plays out. I'm not sure, these are just examples, but the most important thing is like, hey, it's not just, your objectives are not just in the people group, just like other divisions are required to contribute to having a great team. We want the people function and the recruiting function to be strategic and contribute to the other OKRs.
Okay, this is a good call out. I guess they're all under there, but what all of the KRs do have an impact on the overall company. It's not just on having a great team. If we can help the product team and the managers there be more effective, that's obviously going to have an impact on the product. So they do have an impact on other areas, but I get your point around it's all lumped under one, and we do need to work with the different functions to see if there could be specific OKRs to your points there that we could include for moving forward. I think for this quarter, we have quite a lot of OKRs or KRs that we are aligned on. So I would advocate for staying with what we have, but for sure moving forward, including your points there.
how can we, I'm cool, like it's almost a bit, it feels too late to change these, and don't worry, I'm also talking to Eric and McBride about the examples I named, so it will get, at some point, there will be people, business partners that are help, but maybe it's good to include a section on our OKR general page about like, hey, you're required, don't just pick your division and lump it there. You have to contribute all across the company. That's what is required of being strategic. Maybe that's a good reminder. I see Stella nodding. So Stella, you're gonna help with that. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. And by the way, Stella, very small thing, but I noticed you said just one more and then I'll hand it over to Sid. I'd be delighted if there were so many suggestions from you that I didn't have any time to ask something. I think you make great points. So
Okay.
that's
Good stretch goal. Thanks, Sid.
Spend per team member. Brittany, you already created an MR to fix it. You're genius. You wanna comment on the status of that?
Yeah, we have spend per team member that we're manually calculating on the total reward side each month because we don't have that automated through Periscope. It wasn't one of the high priorities, and it's more qualitative than quantitative in some regards. So we're working to get that into Periscope, but it will come in time. We have those metrics each month. I sent over the She's very vocal nowadays. I sent over the merge request to Kathleen to update the link so that there's not a 404 error, but I also linked in here where you can find the information on how we decipher spend per team member.
Cool. What my request would be to iterate, and I don't mean get it in Periscope or Sisense it's called, I think, these days, but I get the data team. The team is getting a bit worried about all the requests they have, so that's tough. But humble brag, but I had a CEO of a company worth more than $25 billion reach out to me over the weekend, like, "Hey Sid, what's your spend per team member?" And luckily, it was really about going remote and how we do that, and we had a ton of materials about that. But imagine if I could just click that link and see, oh, we're doing it manually, and here's the Google Doc title you should search for in our internal system. And then you might have access or you might not have, but at least these two people have access, for example, you. So that would just make it slightly easier. So it's not like, hey, Sisense or bust, but just say what you have right now and make it easy for people to find out where it is and who has access to it.
Cool. That should be pretty easy to document in the handbook.
Cool. Thanks for that. And then a really detailed tactical one, but this Zoom doesn't want me to share. I'm going to tell Zoom to do it again. This one, maybe we can make it a bit more quantitative. Talent maps, talent pipelines, future waves, it's all great, but let's get a number so we can measure it.
Fair. This one's in recruiting. We're building the talent map and outbound future waves of hiring as part of the shift to a whole different model of how we recruit. So it's still early days, but totally agree with it could be quantified, and it could even be quantified in the spirit of making sure that that outbound reach that we're doing is consistent with the OKR we all just agreed on, which is focus outbound on diversity as we believe it to be in the marketplace that we're going to bring toward our company.
Cool, thanks.
All right, are there any other questions, comments?
I want to thank you for making the video. Like, it's always a bit daunting to make a video and have it published. So appreciate the effort.
Thanks, and we'll say thanks to Trevor for driving that and getting it done. Alrighty. Okay, good to see everybody. Enjoy the rest of your
Thanks.
day.
You too.
Bye.